Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. As always, I am Brent Young, and this is a beautiful, wonderful Monday afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in. I'm sure you're taking it in stride, but this Monday I'm joined yet again by my special colleague in crime, my partner per se, my watcher of football games in the press box, Aaron Smith. Aaron, how are we?
I'm doing all right, man. It was a gorgeous day. Nice weekend. Snow, all of that stupid stuff. But
I woke up Sunday morning. I was like, Saturday morning. I was like, wait a minute. It snowed last night?
But today was much nicer weather-wise. Still cold.
Yeah.
But Wednesday it should be right back up into the 70s. So I may go to a driving range on Wednesday. So
wow, golfing weather for Aaron Smith.
Yep.
I like that. What kind of are you hot off the tee? Or you got a good approach? You like your putt game?
Oh, I'm terrible.
The greens? What are you saying?
I'm terrible. I haven't been. I wrecked my shoulder. I broke my collarbone a couple of years ago, and I haven't really been able to get back out there since. So it should be good to get out there and see what I got.
Slow and steady rehab will get you back. That's good. Oh, and Chad, nice of you to join us. Chad, Roberto, how are we?
I'm good. I had been waiting on a call, getting some information about some sources in Michigan about potential new hire at linebacker for the Bearcats. I had to dig deep and hit one of my guys that I've known since I think I met him at an AAU event in like 2007.
Okay.
But he's been around the Michigan program for a long time. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I didn't want to miss the call because I wanted to have the information for when we got to the topic.
Right.
And
Okay.
he just happened to hit me up at 7:55, and we haven't talked in probably a year. So it was we were chatting.
Could have brought him on.
Oh, he probably would love to. Like he's one of those. Like he's one of those. Like he told me 4 years ago when Sauce committed. Like you're getting one. He actually just joked. He was like, "I told you were getting one. I didn't know you were getting that one." But I knew you were getting a dude that could play. I didn't know you were getting something like that, or else Michigan and Michigan State probably wouldn't have paid him no mind. But
Right.
no, I sorry for being a few moments late. But I'm here. I'm good. Life
We're
is
back.
good.
We're live.
I made some chicken wings tonight. Those were outstanding.
Air fryer?
So my smoker is getting worked on right now. There's a problem with the auger. So instead of smoked then air fried, I baked at low heat and then put in the fridge to let cool.
Okay.
Because that also dries them out a little bit.
Okay.
And then air fry to finish to get them crispy.
Okay. Fair.
So good wing night. Good wing night.
And sauces on them. Just go no sauce. We go naked.
Oh no, Carolina barbecue or Carolina Gold is always my wing sauce of choice.
That's what Kelsey likes too, right?
But she got it for me. I'm a staunch Carolina Gold is the best wing sauce.
Fair.
That's
Carolina Gold. Speaking of Carolina, Desmond Ritter. Yeah, good connections there. And when you speak connections, you've already touched on Sauce Gardner. One thing that Sauce Gardner doesn't need is anything to be fixed, as we saw in the pro day. He skipped right past that. But if you do need something fixed, especially on your car, that's when you go to Danco Transmission. Danco Transmission. $10 off an oil change. You head in there. Go ahead and do that. And I saw a nice question. That'll come later. Danco Transmission. Get your oil change, $10 off. BCJ, BBP, Chatty B, Aaron Smith with 2 A's. Mention any of those. You can get yourself a $10 off of an oil change your next time. Danco Transmission. Welcome back. Well, gents, kind of one of those weekends where, yes, last Thursday there was the the pro day here on campus. Then again, thank you, Jeffrey. I've got a lot of it. Then again, Chad, you rehash that on the BCJ pod. Then, of course, we had a couple of rumblings with the basketball team. Dave DeJulius coming back. We're going to touch on that later in the pod as well. And that was mentioned on the recaps as well. And then, of course, spring practice hit the midway point. Now, you and Mick Walker kind of touched on that a little bit. We're going to dive into that a little bit further because, yeah.
With Mick, we touched on like Saturday specifically. Right. So
right.
we've got a lot to get to in terms of turning the page to the second half of spring football.
Exactly. I'll dive right in. It seems as if the story of the spring practice up to this point, of course, has been quarterbacks at the top. It's been adjustments on the defensive side of the football, bringing new names into the mix. And then outside of that, it's been kind of just, who's on the field at what time and how they perform. And with all these new names that are going to be thrown into the ledger. But Chad, if you had to break it down just through the first half of spring practice, what would you say is your number one takeaway? I'm going to break it down position by position here in a bit, but number one takeaway, if you had to kind of culminate it all, as far as your biggest storyline.
I think for me, the thing that's been most interesting is watching them tinker with the defense. Watching, Leroy Bowers being moved to the nickel. Watching Jaheim Thomas being used not only as an outside linebacker, but as a rush end. Moving Jaheim Thomas to the rush end in a 4-man front and putting Ivan Pace on the field. Like, there's just been a lot of and who knows by the time we get to August how much of it sticks.
Right.
But because they've got new blood, because they've got a new kind of set of toys to use defensively, it has been, for me, a lot of fun to see, like, try to get in their mind. Okay, what are they thinking here? Okay, why are they looking at this? Okay, why are they thinking that? I think that part of me has been the most fun. The storyline that everybody wants is the one that is the storyline, I think, that now realistically dominates the second half of spring practice, and that's quarterback.
Right.
Because I think right now they're neck and neck. And I thought, personally, my personal opinion was that Ben Bryant would use these first 2+ weeks to establish himself, even if nobody would say it,
right.
Even if it was, just wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I thought Ben, with his experience, would come in and create some separation that Evan would have to close the gap.
Right.
That happened the first 3 or 4 practices. And then this week, Evan has closed the gap. And we had a couple conversations Saturday that lead towards that is the reality of it. Like, it's not coach speak. It's not, catering to anyone's ego. It is, these two guys are about even. And one of them hasn't pulled away yet. And now we get 8 practices left to see him go toe to toe every day. I think that's awesome.
How big of a surprise do you think that is, though? I mean, when you bring in a guy like Ben Bryant, and we didn't quite know what we had in Evan Prater, are you more surprised by the elevation of Evan Prater in his game, or are you more surprised by Ben Bryant not pulling away?
I mean, Ben has been who we know he is. Like, it's not that Ben has been bad. I think Ben's had Saturday was really the first, like, kind of nondescript practice that he had.
Yeah.
So he's had 6 good practices, 1 great practice, 5 good practices, and 1 kind of eh. So it's not like Ben has been less than we thought. It's that Evan has elevated to the challenge. And I think that's that for the program, unbelievable sign for the future. That's how that is playing out.
I just know a lot of people cast their doubts, I guess, as far as would Evan be able to step up to the plate with Des being gone, because we hadn't seen him.
Well, and because Ben had such a head start. Ben's got, 12, 13 starts as a college quarterback under his belt. Now, most of them are at Eastern Michigan and not here,
right?
But he has spent a season as a number one quarterback, which gave him what you would believe, at least in terms of their first, the spring portion of their battle, that Ben would have been ahead. And Evan said, nah, man, like I ain't giving up my spot. Like, I know you were a starter there, and in Ben's mind, he's coming back to be a starter. And Evan said, we got some competition. Like, we're going to go. We're going to have some fun with this. And I think that's been the seeing that evolve sets up a really fun second half of spring practice.
Yeah, for me, as far as the quarterbacks go, I mean, we'll dive right into that. And then Aaron, I'll let you think.
We get to talk to him tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
There we go. That's big time. Aaron, I want you to think about your number one storyline. Just reading the all the different clippings so far and having the discussions every night. I'm going to say my blurb on quarterbacks, but I want to hear what your top thought storyline is. And I think if the color of the water that you drink, it might be a little bit of a giveaway to what it might be. But as far as that goes, I think the quarterback was is, you mentioned how strong Ben Bryant was in those first couple of days, the first couple of practices. And maybe that was just the continuation of him finishing up all the games that he played, all the snaps that he played, and just rolling that into the beginning of a practice. And then once Evan was able to get some momentum under himself and get some confidence restored himself and see like, hey, yeah, I'm going to get all these snaps too, then that's when the true talent kind of pushed through for Evan. And you see why he's the number one rated recruit in program history. You see why he has all of this oozing talent just waiting to come alive. And a lot of the times, we heard you mention it, Chad. We heard Mick mention it, and in other places they say, Evan has the ability to drop balls in on all these throws that Ben kind of is able to make with ease. Evan adds that extra talent with his legs. He adds a little bit of extra playmaking ability on top of that as well. And I mean, if it's confidence that leads to Evan being able to continuously and consistently hit those throws, then I think confidence is what's starting to build through the first half of practice. And you can see if that next half of practice is where he kind of really just takes off. And I think that'll be something to watch just as far as spring goes, because of course this is just spring. And when that spring game comes along, man, I can't wait to see the battle between those two. Aaron, Let's hear your number one storyline.
Well,
so far, just through the first half.
I mean, I know that you guys know how much I have an adoration for one Blue Smith, hoping that he can get on the field, hoping that
Jesus Christ.
It pays. Well, so he's had some good practices, though.
Yeah,
I think that's a big deal to have the depth of the wide receiver room more than what we thought it was. And I think that he was kind of I don't want to say a cast off, but I mean, forgotten asset, I guess. Right. Hadn't proved himself at this point.
Hurt. He's been hurt every year.
But his name keeps coming up.
I know, because you won't stop talking about it.
But I'm not bringing it up. You're bringing it up because he had a good day. So there's been multiple days where he's had good days. So for me, that's been an important storyline.
Yeah. And I mean, yes. There's that top three. But there's that top three as far as wide receivers go. But I mean, Jaden hasn't had extended snaps. He filled in for Alec when he was injured a couple of seasons ago, but he was kind of, I guess, a decoy just on an opposite side of the field. He didn't really have too many games where he flashed. And then, of course, last season, he had a couple of good grabs, had a couple of, decent games, 3 catches here, a couple of catches there. But this is his first full time really breaking out. So, as much as we want to say 1, 2, 3, I think Tyler Scott and Trey are the easiest 1, 2. Jaden obviously is that de facto 3, but
Yeah, and
everyone behind them can still push.
He's going to have to battle with Nick Mardner. I think the thing for Blue here's what impressed me about Blue in the couple days that he's looked good. That was Drew Donnelly's spot. And Drew Donnelly got dinged up and missed a couple days.
Right.
That's what happens in the spring, right? Like they're going to be ultra cautious with guys. They're going to make sure if you get a ding, you're going to take a couple days off and not rush back. And then Blue had a chance in those couple days to get extra reps in place of Donnelly, and he took advantage of it. Now Donnelly's back, who is a guy I absolutely think has a chance. He's not going to have a major role, but I think there's going to be a couple times this coming season where all of a sudden there's Drew Donnelly for a big play. Like he's got the size, he's got the speed, runs good routes, seems like a kid that's doing everything that they're asking from him. But that's where I think I give Blue the most credit is that's when you have to take advantage is when that door cracks a little bit and you got 2 practices that this guy's going to be out. What do you got? And then you go out there and prove it. And then all of a sudden the coaches are like, all right, well, maybe we'll give you a little bit more burn, or maybe we won't reduce your burn and we'll figure out a way to get you and Drew Donnelly burned. So that's where I would say I was really impressed with Blue as he had kind of a basis, an understanding of, okay, I got a shot right here. Let's make the best of it.
Fun fact, Drew Donnelly is his father. Obviously, everyone knows White Lightning from Ohio State, Doug Donnelly. And I'll be having lunch tomorrow, not with Doug Donnelly, but with a former high school classmate and college classmate of his. He's retiring and works at Adidas here in Indianapolis. So, and every time we get together, there's always at least a 5 to 10 minute pocket of Drew Donnelly and Cincinnati football talk, even though he's a huge Ohio State fan. But so that'll be fun. No, I'm excited to see what Drew Donnelly can bring to the table as well. I guess my thought as far as wide receivers go is, what have you seen, Chad, mainly because you've been at each practice, out of those core 3, out of those top 3 that have kind of shown you that they are ready to take that next step? Because Tyler Scott took that step last year. Trey Tucker is clearly Trey Tucker. We know that. And we know Jaden Thompson is one of the highest ranked wide receiver recruits so far in program history. So what have you seen in these first couple of practices that shows you Trey Tucker's ready to become a national name, and that Tyler Scott's ready to fall on NFL radars and different things of that sort?
I mean, I think you're expecting entirely too much from 7 spring practices, but
I mean, it's
been solid. Like
it's one tidbit here and there. The podcast, we got to talk.
Yeah, they've been solid. I don't know that, there's been anything that's been like, this guy is showing more than he's ever shown before. Like
nothing like a Jamal Williams then.
Right. Like, but we didn't have any info on Jamal Williams. So like next spring, right? Jamal Williams, we're going to be used to Jamal Williams doing Jamal Williams things. Like, Tyler Scott's had a couple really nice deep balls. And I think he's running really good routes from the field position. Trey has been, kind of and it's hard without, again, they don't, first and second team don't tackle in the spring. Right. So it's just like touch, or it's like, thud, where you get the initial, like you put your shoulder into somebody and then you back off because, nobody's trying to get hurt.
But did I hear Luke say that he's going to tackle a little bit more with the first and second team?
A little bit, but not like crazy. Now, he probably was very excited at practice the other day. They threw a wheel route. And Mick and I talked about this. They threw a wheel route to Miles Montgomery. Mm-hmm. And Montgomery caught it about 15 yards from the end zone and was cruising into the end zone. He got to the 2-yard line, and Amarion Smith hit him like a ton of bricks, where everybody in the practice facility was like, whoa there, fella. So there's been a little bit of going live, but not a ton. I mean, they've all been good. Right. But there hasn't been any like, okay, this day this guy just like took over the practice.
Right.
Like that, we haven't seen much of that. And a lot of that is just the way that they're working reps right now and trying to get a look at as much as they can get a look at. I thought Chris Scott has been very good at times. That's a kid. I think he can help like a bigger, because that's what a bigger possession type, route running, move the sticks type field receiver.
Right.
He gives a little bit something different. But man, it's a loaded room. And they got a lot of dudes that can get things done outside. So that part's fun. You want to get to some of these questions?
Yeah,
so we can get them out of here. Nickel, dime, quarter a lot of it is in
5, 6, 7.
What your base formation is on the field. So like Cincinnati runs a 3-3-5. That is essentially a nickel because you have a nickel back on the field. What a nickel means is a fifth corner. A dime, the defensive back, yeah. Dime means you have 6 defensive backs. Quarter, 7. Dollar.
Quarter's pretty much quarter and dollar just against like a Hail Mary. Like a prevent.
Dollar is not a defense. Dollar is a position.
Well, quarter, yeah.
Quarter defense it's actually not 7 defensive backs. It's quarter is more of a coverage where you have 4 guys that each get. They're playing. It's a zone coverage.
It's like 5 cornerbacks and 2 safeties, pretty much.
Yeah. No, it's more of like we have 4 defensive backs and each of them gets a quarter of the field.
Yeah.
But dollar is a position for UC at least. It's that hybrid safety. They call it dollar because it can be whatever, right? Like
wild card.
Is it a defensive back? Is it a safety? You know, is it a corner? Is it, it's a lot of different things. So that's you can do a lot with a dollar. So
you can, except for shop at Dollar General. That's can't really do that.
Could Deshaun Pace play in a similar role as Bowers in the fall with him and Van Fossen on the field together in a package? Look, they got 160 tackles out of Pace and Van Fossen last year. I think they are very happy with how that rotation has been used. Now, we don't know if they've got any tricks up their sleeve with Deshaun Pace because he's been out. He tore his MCL the week of the Cotton Bowl. Still played in the Cotton Bowl.
That's insane.
And so he's been out this spring. Maybe we'll see them toy around with it a little in the fall. But from what I've heard, they really like the ability to rotate Pace and Van Fossen, keep them both fresh, and allow them, when they're on the field, to just fly around and go after the ball. If you remember a Bearcat Journal, Timothy, you will know I am a very big Dominique Perry guy. I think he is going to be one of those guys that wasn't very highly recruited, but I've liked him in watching him since he got here. And I think there's going to be a point, how all of a sudden we were like, damn, Curtis Brooks and Marcus Brown are pretty good. I think you're going to see that with Dom Perry starting this season. I think he's going to be pretty much the backup to Jawan Briggs, and you'll see him make some plays.
I think it's great that you were so far out ahead on that name in particular.
Some guys you just can tell that they like, especially like defensive tackle is the easiest for me of the linemen to like break down because either they have the short area quickness or they don't, right?
Right.
So either they're instantly just and an offensive lineman locks them up, or you see some of those guys that are able to wiggle and figure out in short spaces how to get free. I thought Dom Perry had that, pretty quickly right when he got on campus. So that was a guy that it's like, okay, if this guy develops if this guy has the work ethic and continues, doing things the right way, he's going to be a guy that gets a chance. So
well, there was also a
that's-
log jam ahead of him when he got on campus, just like all the other defensive linemen.
Yeah, but you can still, like, when they get their reps, if you get a chance to get eyes on them, you can kind of figure out, like, what did we talk about in the bowl season? Ooh, Leroy Bowers is They're going to have to figure out a way to get Leroy Bowers on the field next year, because we were actually getting to see the threes play and how much of an impact his effort and energy made. And then we come into spring, and guess what?
Leroy
Trying to find a way to
Bowers.
get him on the field. Those things, that's the fun part about being at practice, is kind of figuring out who's, I was all over Tyler Scott, remember?
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that I'd like. After his freshman year, I'm like, I know this kid caught a couple balls, but he's going to be a major part of the offense as a sophomore. And then first play of the season, he goes bomb 80 yards. And I'm like, what's up? The kicker started kicking yet? Yes. Ryan Coe has a monster of a leg, just an absolute cannon. Now, if you haven't been there, Aaron, did you get to see Coe kicking any?
He hadn't started kicking yet. No.
Okay. Kerry Combs stands maybe a foot from where the ball is going to be kicked and just heckles the shit out of him leading into every kick.
That's
Where you gonna get this one? Don't leave it short. Don't leave it short. Come on now, son. Like, right in his face. He was really good. I think the first 15 kicks, which were like in a special teams period where they're just doing field goal unit. And then you start from 25 and then go back to 30 and then 35 and then 40. I think he missed 2 out of the 15. And then Saturday they went live at the end of a couple drives. And he did the one he missed, or the one he made, they blew dead for a penalty, so it didn't count. And then he was wide right on the other 3 that were all 47 to 52 yards. Like, they were not short kicks, but they were, halfway up the bubble, 3/4 of the way up the bubble. So the leg wasn't the problem. For whatever reason, he was just pulling a little bit right on Saturday. But other than that, he's been really good.
Let's go with running backs now. Obviously, with no contact, it's been kind of hard to judge them, but no Ryan Montgomery so far. Is the emergence of Miles Montgomery and Stephen Bird, most recently you mentioned him, do you think it's more of a open snaps available, not truly going full go at this point? Or do you think it's real that both of them will have maybe not a role initially, but as time goes on, you see a bit of a Michael Warren one with Jared Dokes, kind of like what it was a few seasons ago? Or do you think it's kind of the Ethan Wright, Ryan Montgomery, Chuck McClellan, and these two guys are the future?
I definitely think Miles Montgomery has a chance to be a factor. Sorry. The thing with Miles is, and I've talked about this some, I just think in terms of like a complete back. I think, Aaron, we talked about this on last night, didn't we?
It was I think it was last night.
In terms of being able to run with power, have some burst,
right?
Be able to pass block, be able to get out in space and catch the ball. I think Miles Montgomery has the most complete package of the guys that they have.
Right.
So I think there's a place for him on the field like this fall.
Right.
We don't know yet with Ryan because he's been restricted.
Yeah.
Ethan has looked pretty good. Charles McClellan has had a really good spring. Like I think we tend to forget about Chuck But Chuck's had a couple of those like get outside and turn on the jets, where next thing you know, he's still running 40 yards down the field. I wouldn't sleep on Chuck potentially being the guy that starts the season as the number one back. It's a very interesting room, and I still didn't rule out. I'm not going to rule out after spring ball is over, see where the portal is at, and see if you can go get you a number one type guy.
Mm-hmm.
But in looking at this roster, like I really think that Miles Montgomery is like, he's got next. I don't know when that is because there's a lot of traffic in front of him.
Right.
But I think the next big time back in Cincinnati is going to be Miles Montgomery. That's just my opinion.
It's just crazy thinking about, you go from Mike Warren, Jared Dokes, Jerome Ford. Those are 3 NFL caliber running backs back to back to back. Now it's just, but I mean, Chuck was with all of them. He was able to kind of feel and see the look of what it takes to get that level. I think we're going to miss Jerome's home run hitting ability a lot more than we think. And if Chuck can bring that, then that is all more the merrier. So, yeah, I'm excited to see kind of who tries to separate themselves and how quickly Ethan Wright moves to safety. Those are my two big storylines.
Here's the thing I'll give Ethan credit for. Luke has been talking about moving him to safety for like 3 years now, and he's been good enough at running back that they haven't been able to do it yet. And trust me, like they've only got one guy that's got any real reps or experience at safety.
Right.
They could use another safety, and they haven't moved him.
Nope. I just think it's hilarious every time Luke brings that up. But
he brought it up again this week.
Yeah,
we don't know. We don't even know if Ryan's gonna be or if Ethan's gonna be at safety tomorrow, much less if he's gonna be our starting running back at the beginning of the season.
Exactly. Wide receiver we already touched on. I'm excited to see Martiner. My first time getting there. I just want to see kind of, obviously we know size, just height, what he brings on that side. I just want to see if he really looks the part, because he has 2 years here, possibly a third with COVID edition, or is it? I don't know how the years break down there, but I'm just excited to see what he brings outside of just the general size. Next, I want to talk tight ends real fast. We touched all on Shimon Mateer. I'm not even going to mention him. We've already said his name enough. I want to know if Lenny T, if your perception, and I know it's just the beginning of spring practice, but does he look like he's made that additional step? Aaron, I'm gonna come to you on this one. That lines him up to be in line to get the eye and the attention of NFL teams with a solid final year here with the Bearcats.
For Lenny T, I think the thing that plays most in his favor, outside of his size and the fact that he's not afraid to run over anybody, is simply the fact that he has so much time now with both Ben Bryant and Evan Prater, that I think that's only going to play into his hand. I think the blocking has never been an issue for Lenny. It was a matter of how well do you catch the ball, and I think he proved that last year.
Yeah.
That all said, I think he's going to get some eyes as far as that goes. I think that especially when people are in town to check out Josh Wiley, you're going to have no other choice than to also check out Lenny T. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be a matter of getting the eyes from the NFL personnel. I think it's just going to be a matter of how easy is it going to be to spread the ball out between the receiving core that you have, the tight ends that you have, and whenever you're, making those checkdowns for your running back.
Throw up that Notre Dame game and play that one touchdown highlight against ECU, and I think you've got an NFL player on your hands. Chad?
The thing with Lenny, though, he's been great in practice for a while now. Like, remember I had him as my offensive MVP. Did you see that, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Holy shit.
What?
Check your messages. I had him as my offensive MVP coming out of camp, going into the season last year. So, like, we've seen him do this in practice a lot. Now we need to see, and we've seen it in games. That's not to say we haven't seen it in games.
Mm-hmm.
But that's to say, like, he has the tools and he's ready to make that jump that you're talking about, Brent. Like, we've seen it. We know it.
Yeah.
We just need to see it translate into, Saturdays. What'd you think of that text?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm here to say that catch that Lenny T had was considered one of Des Ritter's best throws in his entire career. And sure, PFF doesn't grade on if the pass is completed or not. It might get a bonus point or something. I think it's more about positioning and things of that sort. But I mean, Lenny T comes down with that catch. I mean, you look at that ECU catch and run, and that is as Travis Kelce-esque as you can get, as I say on the Bearcat conversation. I think he's got it. I think, like you said, it's just more getting the ball in the tight end's hands more, seeing if there's ways to have, obviously Josh and Lenny on the field at the same time, and it only aids to
There'll
that.
be ways, for sure.
To get both of them. Yeah.
Ways. I know there's a lot of feeling that they probably didn't run enough 12 personnel last year. That they should have run more 12, but then it gets difficult. Who do you take off the field? Do you take Trey Tucker off? Do you take a running back off and go 5 wide? Mm-hmm. It presents you with an interesting challenge. Let's just say.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same as like the defense, though, where you have so many pieces. It's a matter of just figuring out what you're going to do with these pieces. So I think it's a fantastic problem to have, as opposed to some years back where you didn't even have this problem. It was
right. Well, and Aaron, also to your point, you look back when Dez had Josiah DeGuara, when Dez was kind of in that scout team role, as redshirt freshman. I'm sure he was throwing to a plethora of different receivers. But you look at Evan Prater, who some of his main targets, and even Ben Bryant, some of his main targets during those years when Dez was the starting quarterback. Probably you were getting a lot of Lenny T looks on that scout team with, Bruno and Wiley ahead of you. So, you're building up that bond and that camaraderie, and you just carry that on to now, and where now you have a security blanket like Josiah DeGuara was able to have his monster season as a security blanket for Dez. So should be exciting. Offensive line didn't really have much. I want to know if Tunstall's kind of taken that next step. He obviously, unseated or took the role and had Jamal Williams be that swing tackle, but it looked like he always had just that one more step that he could take. I guess if he's on the path to that, then that's great. And then of course backup depth at center, and if Gavin Gerhardt's getting every single snap at center, I can imagine just more reps leads to more practice, leads to depth being developed.
Let's say this: I haven't noticed James Tunstall much yet through the first 7 practices. And if you're an offensive lineman, that's a good thing. It means you're doing your job. It means you're not getting beat. Like, if there's been a area that the offensive line has given up some ground, it's been at center and right guard. And that's where, your subs are, if you will, with Gavin Gerhardt in for Jake Renfro, and then Joe Huber in for Lorenz Metz. So, and they're also blocking Jawan Briggs from that spot. So sometimes you're going to get whipped. Sometimes that's just what's going to happen. But no, Tunstall's been good. Like I said, but the question is, how much of that is what we're going to be afraid of going into this year, that Cincinnati does not have really an edge pass rusher on this team, right? Because even though Majay didn't have counting stats, Majay put so much pressure on the offensive line that it opened it up for Curtis Brooks to have a great year, that it opened it up for Malik Van when he was healthy to be very productive. So even Briggs, when Briggs stepped in for Van, he had a couple really good games. So I think that's more of a concern than how his Tunstall looked. But from everything I've seen, like, I'm not writing down Tunstall got beat in team drills, which,
Hey, Brent, ask him who the biggest surprise on the offensive line has been, though.
I already know the answer, but Chad, who's been your biggest surprise so far on the offensive line? Is it possibly someone who might have had an opportunity given to him with a little bit of an ailment or an injury, and they're taking advantage? Chad, who's a surprise?
I mean, I don't know. Where are you guys trying to take me with this? I feel like I'm being set up here.
No,
you're not. You
mentioned him. We talked about him earlier on the nightcap a couple days ago, Friday maybe.
What, John Williams?
No.
Right.
Oh, who?
The walk-on.
Joe Huber?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he's been solid. Like he's surprised me that he's been able to hold off like a D'Artagnan Tinsley. The transfer that's coming in, working with the second team. But he's one of those. I think you described like a glass eater, right? Like it's the common phrase in Cincinnati now.
It is.
Sometimes it tastes good.
Yeah,
Glass.
like a tough guy,
Right.
physical. I mean, he's been solid. I do think, like I said, I think there's some times that you've seen either Jabari Taylor or Juwan Briggs get the best of him, but that's not shocking, right? Those guys we both expect to have really good years. Yeah. So he's been pretty good so far for considering his status as a walk-on, running pretty much all 7 practices with the ones. That's good.
Can we confirm that Lawrence Metz has 2 hands? Does he have 2 hands, or is it forever a club?
I have seen his other hand. So yeah,
Okay.
He does once again have 2 hands. He does not. He is not converted to the club, which is good.
Makes eating Skyline a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Can confirm that first team all conference guard Lawrence Metz does have 2 hands. He will be having 2 hands this upcoming season. Aaron, you can tweet that out. That's some breaking news.
Confirm Lorenz Metz 2 hands.
Breaking news. I can't confirm. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I think obviously with spring practice, another thing is offensive line, until they're really going at it, you can't dig out and find too much. And I think it'll be a growing thing, but it's good to know that every single starter is back from last season. So whenever you have that going for you, it's a big plus.
And it is nice in spring, like
right.
You get a chance to get a look at some other guys. Now you never want, like, you obviously want Renfro and Metz out there as much as possible, but those are 2 veterans that have taken a lot of snaps. Like they're going to be okay when you plug them back in. So I do think it's a good chance to get a good look and see what some of your depth, especially when you're working in a new offensive line coach. It's kind of been moving guys around. Like I mentioned the other Saturday, we saw John Williamson get a little bit of a look at left guard. And with the second and third team, we've seen Luke Collinsworth slot in at tackle and get a couple reps at guard to see maybe if he fits there. What I'm figuring out is I would guess if you asked Mike Cummings, he thinks he's got a lot of guards. Like I don't know if he's confident in like how many tackles he has, but I think he thinks like I got a lot of options at guard, which is again why I've talked about with the 2023 class recruiting. I think it's going to be, especially with Evan Tengestal already locked up inside, I think there's going to be a heavy focus on tackles in that class.
I mean, you even see that Dylan O'Quinn, who is considered an anchor of the offensive line, was moved from guard out to tackle. So it'll be interesting to see, as you mentioned, as the new culture or the new change of the way that they roll the offensive line out there continues to take a role. So moving on quickly, defensive line transition from Greg Scruggs to Walter Stewart. Kind of wanted to dive on that. Malik Van is obviously back and healthy. We've mentioned the depth that is there, but the pass rusher has kind of been missing. You already alluded to this a little bit with the Jaheim Thomas project, which is Luke Fickell's own project, as you've also referenced. So kind of Walt Stewart, him taking over the Greg Scruggs role and, obviously back in his haven land. Seems like following the Wired Wednesday, he's taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, Walt's awesome. Like, if you know Walt, he's going to do awesome in this role. Like, he's personable. He's outgoing. It's super awesome, dude. So, yeah, like, he's made for this. And I think so far he's taken to it really well. From talking to some of the guys, they all seem very happy with what he has been providing them to this point as a D-line coach. He's had success everywhere he's been with guys getting better. So yeah, I'm super happy to have Walt around, and he looks like he's adjusting and becoming more and more natural at working with these guys every day.
And then, of course, we've kind of mentioned already the depth on the defensive line. You think the Jaheim Thomas thing is what's going to kind of be that pass rush that's been missing, or do you see the possibility of someone rising up and assuming that role as, the offseason progresses?
Haven't seen it yet.
Right.
That's. I mean, I've seen Rob Jackson start to flash a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've had my eye on Jamal Williams because I think he's kind of that long, twitchy, outside guy, but I haven't seen in his reps, and he's been repping mostly with the threes.
Right.
I haven't seen anything that makes me like, instantly grab the pen and get to the notebook. I don't think he's been bad. I haven't seen anything that's kind of like, oh, okay.
He's got the
Majay
build, though.
He does. But Majay was instant, man. Majay's motor.
Right.
He was like 210 pounds, and you were still like, who the hell is that?
Right. Exactly.
I haven't seen that.
The build's
Jamal
there,
yet.
but
yeah,
maybe that's the part that needs to progress. Quickly, linebacker. Once
about
Pace
what we expected.
Yeah, but once Pace comes back, you think it's just rolling him back with Ty Van Fossen as we've seen before.
Yep.
And then of course Will Huber, coach mentioned it in the most recent presser, just kind of about how he's adapting to a new role as well. Is that just kind of taking over for DeBlanco at that middle position, or what has been?
I mean, Huber's been really good.
Yeah.
Jaheim is, when he's been at that linebacker spot, I think he's been really active. I think when he's moved down to that pass rusher spot, he's still adjusting. Yeah. Because remember, that's not something like he's been getting coached at for 2 years. He's been being coached to play either middle or outside linebacker. But he's going to be really good as he gets snaps. But I just think they're happy with, like, if you go, what could you say was a flaw with the way that they used Pace and Van Fossen last year when you look at how productive the two of them, like, imagine if that was one play. Like, I don't think you could get that out of one player because you're not going to be having somebody that fresh. But they only played one position.
Yep.
Between the two of them. I don't think there was ever a time when they were both on the field. No. I just think they're happy with, like, we know what we have. And that's a position that involves a lot of stamina, right? Because you're in coverage and you're moving around a lot and you're dropping and you're rushing and, you're being asked to do a lot of things. I think that is a spot ideally that you have two guys.
Yeah. And having someone fresh at that position on top of the amount of attention that this staff gives to special teams as well.
Sure.
Those two are special team aces. So, just having the ability to constantly have one of them being fresh and ready to come off the bench whenever needed is obviously huge, huge plus.
Absolutely. Like, I just think it works.
Yeah, for sure. So that now brings us to James Ross III. You tweeted about this, and the thoughts are they're zeroing in on him as the position that Walt leaves behind now that he moved down
outside linebacker,
defensive line. Yep. So he was a linebacker at Michigan, which kind of makes you say, "What? Hold up, what?" But he was.
He must be off the charts. Like his interview skills have to be off the charts.
Man,
he's 27, Brent.
Yeah. He
was a senior on Harbaugh's first team.
Right. Well, but he's got years of coaching under him already at Michigan, and then he went to Hope College. But now it's just kind of it seems as if it was probably maybe another player that Tressel might have recruited at Michigan State back then.
Maybe. I haven't dug in yet. This is all very new.
Right.
I haven't dug in yet on what the connection was, but that's That's an outstanding point, Brent Young, that he could have been recruited by Tressel at Michigan State.
And I imagine even recruited by Luke at Ohio State as well. So, and then on top of that,
good job, Brent.
You tie in the fact that
I'm proud of you.
He's got deep connections in the high school ranks in Michigan, and where has been kind of a key target state-wise that this staff has really been going after recently, and that's the state of Michigan. So, I mean, I think he checks a lot of boxes of things that you want to bring in. He won what? He won the Division III state title as a junior at Orchard St. Mary's in Michigan. He was part of the U.S. Army All-American game. He was a Detroit News blue chip list, All-State Detroit Free Press Dream Team. I mean, he is he's a quote unquote Michigan guy through and through, coming down to Ohio. Look at all the names that Michigan. Yeah, a lot of names recruit wise. The Bearcats are all over, out of Detroit, out of the greater Michigan area. So I don't know. Chad, did you get a little bit more on him as far as coaching tactics or anything from your buddy before?
From it was kind of quick, but in general, just a great guy. Like from what I was told, a great guy, great work ethic, loves football, like everything you would expect from one of the he fits the exact same profile as Darren Page and Mike Brown and while young, like Mike Cummings, that energy, like Nate Letton, the things that he's about are the right things. And that's what Luke is looking for. This one's an interesting one to me because it's essentially a free spot. Right. Because Mike Tressel is an outstanding linebacker coach. Now, that's not to say he's not going to do anything, because he's going to coach the outside linebackers. But if he can recruit Michigan, if this is a guy that resonates in Michigan, and Cincinnati's already got juice in Michigan right now with Sauce, like they could really turn the heat up in the state of Michigan. And I think that you strike while the iron's hot, right? You go where the winds take you, and the winds right now are saying we're going to recruit Ohio, but we got a little window here in Michigan where we can make an impact on our roster with some of the best guys from that state, as well as some of the best guys. Because when you look at the Michigan guys they're going after, they're not going after guys that are like the 30th ranked guy in Michigan.
Right.
They're going after top 15, top 20 guys in a state that produces, a good deal of talent. So
exactly.
Everything that all of the information that I've gotten today, as I've been tracking this one down, has been very, very positive.
Good
on him. So hopefully get to talk to him here at some point in time soon, but I know how this works, right? Like it takes a couple weeks to go through but I'm guessing we might not hear something official on him until after spring football is over, which would mean we probably wouldn't get him on camera until sometime down the road. But man, 27,
yeah,
to get a full-time on-field position spot is significant.
And I mean, how old was Scruggs? Was he was late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah, but then he came in for two years as the player personnel guy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Going in for a position. Yeah, true. No, I agree.
So, I mean, it's impressive. That's impressive, man.
If you're looking for a guy to relate to kids as they're recruiting, though, I mean,
yeah,
that's exactly what you need. I mean,
exactly.
You can't put a price on that age and being able to relate to kids.
I think his last year at Michigan was 2015. Like, that was not long ago.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if all signs point to that, I think that's it's a fantastic job. So obviously we'll move on quickly to the defensive backfield. My main thought as far as quarterback goes is the fact that Arquan Bush wants to be a star. You watch the coverage of the pro day. I sadly wasn't able to go. Day job truly has way too many restrictions, but Arquan, And when the NFL Network and Steve Smith was interviewing Sauce Gardner, I saw Arquan walk behind and just give it a long look, you know?
Yeah.
And when I see that, that's someone who knows what has happened in front of him, who knows what it takes to get to that next level and showcase what you can do. And I think he's as locked in as you can possibly be. You guys mentioned the whole, Todd Bumpus versus Sammy Anderson situation. And, you mentioned the steadiness of Todd Bumpus and the playmaking skills of Sammy Anderson. I kind of think a little bit about Sauce and Kobe factor. Sauce is extremely, steady, but he had that playmaking side to him, but he was also elite. But I think that's kind of age to what Sammy Anderson brings. And then Todd Bumpus, you look at Kobe Bryant, he's about as steady as you can get on that other side. And I think you see kind of the same thing in the Todd Bumpus as far as what I've been able to gather from you guys. So I think my biggest question in the defensive backfield just is that other safety position, because I don't think it's gotten talk, but no one has really owned it. And it seems as if, Dingle is the one who's kind of in the first team role, but still it's like, it's not solidified or anything of that sort. I think as the rest of spring practice continues, I think obviously cornerbacks is going to get a lot of the eye, but I think safety is a position that really has been taken for granted. But when you have just a flush of NFL talent go through, and now you've got to kind of find who's next, I think it's going to be just as important as finding who those cornerbacks are.
Think about it like this. For the past 3+ years, there have essentially been, because I think Javon Hicks is going to play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to have a really good senior year, and he's going to play in the NFL.
Right.
If you go back to the start of, Wiggins and Forrest, and then Wiggins gets hurt, so Forrest and Hicks, and then Wiggins and Forrest again, and then Cook and Hicks, and now Hicks is back. Like, we're talking 4 years of 2 NFL safeties.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Right? Like that doesn't happen at Cincinnati.
It's a luxury.
You don't get that.
Right.
When's the last? Haruki was the last NFL safety, really?
What? I mean, Zach Edwards.
I didn't play in the NFL.
Who is it that keeps on bouncing around in the NFL? Seahawks and
that was corner. You're thinking of damn it. I know you're thinking of, but that was corner.
Yeah.
That wasn't a safety.
Yeah,
Seahawks and Saints.
Haruki.
And,
yeah, I think that'd be the number one.
Underwood got a little bit of run in the NFL.
Right.
It's just not a position that they've had a lot of high end talent. And now you're talking a 4-year run of holy crap, they're good at safety.
Yeah.
I think right now it's Dingle's job to lose. I think Threats is a threat to take that position. How could I not? How could Aaron? Don't give me that. You'd have made that stupid joke 10 times out of 10.
Are you talking about Lyndon Stevens?
Yeah.
Lyndon Stevens. Yeah, that's who it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was a corner.
Correct.
Landon, not Landon, Andy, but close. That part is going to be interesting, but we haven't seen any movement there yet. It is
right.
They've given Threats some time with the ones, but for the most part, Dingle has been with the ones.
Right.
We'll see, like as things heat up, if Threats can overtake him.
Mike Tyson was drafted.
He was drafted, but did he play any in the
Sixth
NFL?
round.
Good one, Pat. Good contribution to the chat, Pat.
Great. First team all name for the history forever.
I love good contribution to the chat.
Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans, Green Bay Packers,
Did he put up stats?
Packers, he was a practice
He
squad.
was a special teams guy mostly.
And then
right?
the Toronto Argonauts this last
Right.
year. He's got 5 career NFL tackles.
Okay. So he played. Yeah. That makes him an NFL safety. Absolutely.
Yep. He, yeah. So, yeah, good for him. Made some money. Good for him. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that with the raise in talent and recruiting wise, I think you're going to have more opportunities for the safety position to continue to breed these NFL caliber players. But it's who's going to step up and take ownership of that position is going to be as important as any other question, because if you don't have a backfield defensively, then all of these runs where we just don't even think about, where they get past the defensive line and past the linebackers, and then Derek Force is there to tackle them, or Brian Cook is there to make sure that they don't gain any more yardage. Mm-hmm. You need someone that's going to be able to do that. So I'm excited to see as that continues to wear on throughout the entire offseason. Lastly, just, you know, we've already talked about Ryan Coe a little bit, but this brings us up to the quality control. Can we mention this one, Chad, or?
It's just the name I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it confirmed yet. Ricky Brown. I guess he went to Elder, played at Boston College, has been at Boston College, Ohio State. I think he was a quality control for USC. Has been kind of moving his way up the ranks. I think the thing that's interesting to me, if they bring him in, his forte seems to be special teams.
Yeah.
Like if you look at his bio, he was a special teams coach at Boston College, and Boston College had really good special teams when he was there.
Assuming him and Combs were there together at Ohio State.
Yep, for 1 year. Yeah,
1 year. Yeah, but that could easily have been Combs being like, "Look, this guy's got a great,
he's a real
great
deal.
mind for special teams.
Right?
Like, let's get him in here in whatever role we can." And you're starting to see these quality control guys look like what the quality control positions look like at power schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like guys with experience, not just guys on the come up, guys that have actually been coordinators somewhere. Yeah, they've been coordinators somewhere. They've worked in quality control at Power 5 schools, and they're coming here to work in a similar job. Like those quality control guys, how do I say this? Because I don't want to like be negative towards anybody. That job was kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but it was like secondary, right? Like it was, we need to have these spots filled.
Right.
But it wasn't like we're filling them with a different talent pool, I guess. Does that make sense? Am I
Yes, I mean,
when you have more money,
related also
you
to
start hiring from a different talent pool.
Right.
That part makes sense.
But you can also relate it to like recruiting, like, you know, these guys that you would have maybe surefire been like, yeah, we'll take you, who want to come to Cincinnati now. Well, you don't have as many spots, you don't have as many, you know, availabilities to take all these guys who maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you would say, yes, we will take you. We would love to have you join the team. But now you got to be a little bit more selective, and because there's a lot more people that are wide open to the ability to come in and help out. So I agree. But yeah, he seems like a Combs guy. He seems like he's going to be someone who has a lot of pedigree, running some very good special teams, especially at Boston College. If you read his bio on that, I think Dave put on the board, it says a lot of good things about old Ricky Brown.
Right.
Anything else football-wise, guys? I think tomorrow you're back at practice.
Yeah, I mean, how about that? You were worried, like, what are we going to have to talk about? And it is 9:15.
Never worried. Never worried.
You were not worried. You were like, you were making sure that we had enough content. And Aaron was like, we might get done early tonight. Womp womp.
We still might, because the mailbag.
The mailbag's a little late, yeah, and a lot of the answers are the same.
I think it's time for a special timestamp, y'all.
Ooh, I gotta pull that up. Crap.
Do we do it?
Well, in the meantime, I do want to say I got my special package in. Did you get your special package?
His is on. Brent's is on the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Going
really?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Oh, you got it?
Urban Artifact, the gadget.
Yep.
No, but I mean, did you get your package?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. That was quick. Holy crap.
32 beverages to enjoy thanks to Urban Artifact.
Yes. Amen.
All right. Spring means two things, guys. Basketball and warmer weather. Enjoy both with some fruit tarts from Urban Artifact, Cincinnati's home. For drinks made exclusively with real fruit, swing by Urban Artifact's Northside Tap Room. Mention Bearcat Journal. Get $2 off a flight of 4 tasters. Love it.
Aaron, cheers.
Cheers, sir.
Urban Artifact acidifies their beer with a unique strain of lactobacillus. They catch that lactobacillus, I think that's the way to pronounce it, in the church bell tower.
Insane.
How about
That's
Not
super
How about that? Let's get a review. What do you guys think? Have you had that one before, Brent? Is that your?
Nope, first time doing the old raspberry and blackberry Midwestern fruit tart. Tell you what, you can have it come back for more. Very tasty, very tasty.
Aaron?
I'm doing the Spyglass. It's a lemon lime tart. It's a nice summer. It would be a very nice summer.
I bet that's one like Kelly would. Kelly's big on like summer shandies. Like in the summer she likes a good, light refreshing option. I bet that yeah, you can have it shipped to your house. Aaron and Brent had it shipped to their house.
Out to Athens, Ohio.
All the way to Athens, all the way to Indy. Like it wasn't like Urban Artifact just like, ship something to like the West Side. These guys are out of towners now. That Aaron is fully like, are you done? Like
Everything's here. I'll say that much. Everything's here.
You don't have to pay rent in April, right?
Correct.
So you don't live in Cincinnati anymore.
Keys are turned in.
Yeah, you live in Athens, Ohio.
Change of address form is filled out.
Welcome to Athens, home of the Bobcats. There we go.
And Brent's in Indy. Like you can get it shipped to you. So do that. If you're an out-of-towner, get you some Cincinnati flavor with our good friends now at Urban Artifacts. I'm really happy for this one. I think this one has a chance to be right up there with what we've done with Galactic Fried Chicken, and making somebody even more of a name regularly in the city.
It tastes very good. I was at Gamebridge Fieldhouse downtown Indianapolis, watching my alma mater, the Cathedral Irish, win another state championship. Just added onto the list, but first basketball since like '98. So, cheers to them. Xavier Booker is on that team.
He's very good.
He's very good. I don't think I guess I can ask it. Well, is that still going to be a target moving forward? Do you think, Chad? They've established enough of a connection there. I
mean, it's going to be really hard to get that kid out. Look,
right.
Indiana's got Indiana, Purdue, Notre Dame. Yeah. Like, it's really hard if there's a kid that's of that level to beat out one of those 3 schools. It'll be really difficult. But they like him. He's good. He's very good.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
I mean, that thing was a blowout, right? Like, that was an ass kicking.
Oh, they were up 40 at one point. But, I mean, Chesterton is one of those schools from the region.
They had a magical run to get there, right?
Well, no, they went 29-0, but you have some.
But I mean, in terms of like getting through the playoff, they weren't ever qualified to beat Carmel.
Yeah, Cathedral.
Sorry.
The weird thing is, like, every single team makes the state tournament in Indiana.
Yeah, it's like Kentucky. I'm aware of how it works.
So you have like the ability to have a somewhat easy ride. Like in Cathedral Sectional is like 3 of the top 10 teams in the state. And so once you get out of there, it's kind of an easy ride. But it was a win. Xavier Booker's really good, but I mean, there on the sideline was Tom Izzo, and then you look down low, and it's Matt Painter, who probably wishes he was still in Philadelphia, but the the Peacocks got a hold of him and took him on down. Gosh, that was a rough game, but yet there he was trying to lure in old
Right.
Xavier Booker. But that leads us to basketball talk. It's time to roll right in.
Yep.
Good news came this weekend. One David DeJulius announces he is coming back for one more season with the Bearcats. Mammoth news. It's really hard to think where this team would be without David DeJulius. It's
Offense, if you think offense was difficult last year, imagine what offense would have looked like without David DeJulius. Woo!
like
Woo!
he rose up to the top of every team's scouting report, which then opens up opportunities for other players. The other players just at times weren't able to kind of, pick up
Right.
that, but still it was without him, it would be crazy to imagine. But, Justin Williams did a good job touching on this in his article after David got it. It was just kind of the fact that this is the first time in David DeJulius's career that he will be playing for the same coach in back-to-back seasons.
Right, that's crazy.
Just imagine that. Imagine that.
1 year for Beeline, 1 year for Juwan Howard, 1 year for John Brandon, 1 year for Wes Miller, coming back for a second year of Wes Miller.
Unbelievable. I mean, it is crazy to think about playing for 4 different coaches in
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. But David, right now, he sits at 884 career points scored. He's going to easily top 1,000 between Michigan and Cincinnati. I think he's going to top 1,000 points as a Bearcat. He's at 653 for Cincinnati. He scored 480 this past year.
That's reasonable.
Probably
What do you average?
around
15, about 14, 15 a game?
like 14. It's like 14 and a half. Yeah, 14 and a half this season. So play 33 games. You probably only need to average around 12. But I mean, I think he solidifies kind of that one position, that one role where you wanted to get that back in place, just kind of that scoring guard. And now you can kind of not necessarily build around him. I mean, pretty much build around him. The confidence that he has coming off of this past season is probably the number one thing you would take leading into next year, is someone who has the confidence that they are one of the best combo guards in the entire country. And
Right.
That's what David has. Aaron, your initial thoughts when you saw the juice, man, when you saw Juice, the one that we call in the media DDJ, that no one else calls DDJ. When you saw David
Still so
DeJulius,
strange.
when you saw David DeJulius make the announcement he was returning, even if we could have maybe seen it on the tea leaves, what was your feeling when that finally came to fruition?
How can you not be excited when your leading scorer comes back?
Right.
Especially if things go according to what I think is not just the fans' plans, but it seems as if it's also in the coaching staff's plans. If you bring in another guy who can score, if you bring in another point guard, a starting point guard, if you bring in another big, all of a sudden this team looks very different with just 3 additions.
Right.
And on top of bringing in Josh Reed, on top of bringing in Daniel Skillings,
right,
on top of bringing in Sage. So I don't know. I think that it's going to be an exciting time to be a Bearcat next year as far as basketball goes. And I think that this was the very first piece in building that out.
Guys, what was the first substitution that Wes Miller made every game? It was like clockwork.
David
clockwork
DeJulius or
every
Mike
game.
Saunders.
Yeah. Mike Saunders would check in, David DeJulius would come out, and it would be Mike Saunders and Micah Adams-Woods in the backcourt as the 1-2 punch. When you keep David DeJulius and you potentially add, that point guard, longer point guard that we've been alluding to all offseason.
Or a combo guard to go with Dave.
Right. The combo guard to go with Dave. You then have the ability to bring in Micah, who might just be kind of that steady veteran point guard off the bench, but you have the ability to maybe then put Dave with Micah a little bit more, or Dave and the other guard a little bit more, or you bring in Daniel Skillings with Dave, or you start Daniel. Just the possibilities right now are crazy. And when you have a Daniel Skillings who potentially, you guys mentioned it, I believe, on one of the recaps, is he might come in and play 10 minutes, 12 minutes a game throughout the beginning, first half of the year. But as things go on, he might see an uptick in minutes and uptick in production as he, transitions into what the next level brings. I mean, you look at another recent player who did that same exact thing as a true freshman, and that was Jacob Evans. And I don't think it's far-fetched to just think about when you have David DeJulius out on the court for as many minutes as he's hoping to get his last season, and you bring in a scorer as that second position, you'll see the playmaking just take another step up, and you'll see the ability to have Dave have more space than he had probably ever this past season.
Yep.
I think that's key.
I'm excited.
It'll be exciting.
We're in a good spot to start.
AJ Mcginnis, since we last talked, he put his name in. I believe from everything that I've seen on the board and just talks and different things of that sort, the feeling is possibly that this is all of the departures. Obviously portal season kind of just started, so possibilities are endless. But do you feel as if this is kind of the core? If you had to take your guess, core as in what David DeJulius said in the article with Justin, just about how he feels confident in the core that Wes has been able to establish.
Define core. If you add the right guys, the core changes, right?
Yes.
I think a core has been established when you look at Dave, John Newman, Odie, Vic, Davenport,
right.
Micah. A core has been established, but guess what? Even with that core established, those names, there's a couple of those guys that won't be back after next year.
Right.
So it's an ever evolving, we are not at a point where we were, say when Troy was a junior and you had Troy and Gary and Jake, Kyle was coming in. We're not at that point yet where it's okay, we know what this roster is going to look like for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, think of it this way too. If you bring in a point guard, a big, and a guy either coming off the bench or potentially
a wing,
right, potentially starting, all of a sudden your core, if you're not having to run 10, 11 deep as far as your rotation goes, all of a sudden your core could shrink down to 7 or 8 guys as opposed to running that deep. So your core could be drastically different.
Well, I disagree there because Wes wants to play
still 10,
pressing. 11. He wants to get after you. He wants to bring guys at you in waves. And for whatever reason, that fans think that's a bad thing. If your style, if you're slowing it down and grinding out a game, you're not going to play.
I just mean if you bring in guys who demand, maybe that 28, 30 minutes that we haven't seen as outside of DeJulius.
I still think you're going to see Wes doesn't want to play guys 28, 29, minutes. 30 minutes a game. He wants to play guys 24, 25, 26 minutes a game because he feels like that's where they're most effective. Now, when the season's on the line, the guys that are getting, 27 are all of a sudden going to be getting 30. But over the long haul, you want those guys at 24, 25 so that when you get to when things matter, you can play them 30. It's just a philosophy. And I'm really interested to see, can he get to the point with these roster additions and the guys that are currently here where they can press and they can change defenses and be disruptive and be multiple defensively to really throw teams off of their kilter on the offensive end. Because we didn't see that this year. Like they really had, like, if they were going to be good on defense, they had to sit down and guard in the half court.
Right.
Can he change this roster enough with Skillings, with Reed, with Tolentino, who we all think is probably going to take some time just to physically get to where he needs to be.
Right.
And then with the additions from the portal to make this team a team that can say, you know what, for maybe it's not for 40 minutes. Maybe it's not 40 minutes of hell yet. Maybe it's 19 minutes of heck. where they're getting after you and getting in you and pressing you for 19 minutes. Like that, but that's vastly different than what we saw in year one, because we saw like 4 minutes of maybe we'll bother you.
Yeah, like 4 minutes of Will Smith at the Oscars, and then just
right. Wow.
I was waiting for when that was going to make an appearance tonight.
Look, he did it. That was as good a time to bring that in as you could possibly have.
You're not wrong.
That was well fucking done, Brent. Well done. I think like you're having an Evan Prater moment tonight. Like you're having a strong game. A strong game.
I mean, I'm the number 1 overall prospect, so yeah. No, but so
you've been here for like 5 years now.
Evan's been there 3. So here's a thought. Do you think
I love it. What a fucking great show this is tonight, because we were all like, I don't know if we have much to talk about. We're 90 minutes in.
It's like the nightcaps.
Do you think another thing about the kind of just the overall depth that the team had last year, talent depth, I mean, where if you did go with that full court pressure and it did become a game where all of a sudden Dave gets 2 quick fouls, or all of a sudden, you have Newman pick up 2 quick cheap ones.
Right.
And you're throwing in someone that you might trust in spurts, but to tell them to play 15 minutes while Dave DeJulius has to sit on the bench, you're maybe not as keen to do that. So you do sit back in that half court defense, and you do not get as high pressure as you would like to. Well, if you bring in these 3 transfers that they're hoping for, on top of the 3 freshmen coming in, 2 probably that are ready right away, I mean, I think that allows you to be a little bit more of a gambler when it comes to that sort. So, yeah, I don't know. I think at this point, obviously the next question, the next step is who takes these 3 special roles. And we've already mentioned a point guard with some length. Dave coming back immediately makes that be, one of the main options. But the question is this. Dave kind of mentioned he sees himself as a combo guard, sees himself as someone who can play on the ball and off the ball as well. Is that leading to the side where this player potentially coming in, the quote unquote guard, does it need to be a point guard first type role player, or does it need to be, or could it be that combo guard like Dave DeJulius is? I mean, I don't know yet. It's kind of a right. I mean, but in your opinion, do you think the way that kind of Dave was used could lead to be, well, if you get 2 Daves on the court at the same time instead of a potentially guy that's 5 assists a game, maybe not the scoring power and the shooting that comes with it.
We'll see. Can they get number 1? And if you're a member of Bearcat Journal, you have a pretty good sense of like what they're looking like, what they're trying to do right now. Yeah. I think that impacts everything. Are they, if they can find a way to get the guy that they've got their eye on, then everything kind of adapts from there. If not, then maybe it looks different. Maybe what you can draw up looks a little different because of how target number 1 impacts the roster. So I don't know yet. I don't like. I genuinely don't. I know they are trying to look and under every rock and turn over every stone and see what is out there and what fits and what might be right. I still think at this point, like, there's one name at the top of the list and then a bunch of due diligence being done.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully here in the next week or two, like, we start getting a little bit more clarity. But right now, like, here's what I could say to people that are worried about where things are at. Wes right now is not trying to impact the middle of the roster, right? Because that's ultimately, if we're being honest with ourselves, that's what happened last year. And a lot of that was situational, given when you were, like, how late you got to the portal, right? What did we talk about all year? They had a bunch of middle of the roster guys, a bunch of guys that were suited to be on a roster, built one way, that could utilize their one skill. Like, you could put this guy on the floor and know we're getting rim protection, or you could put this guy on the floor and know we're getting defense, or you could put this guy on the floor and know we're getting a little bit of shooting. You don't want to do that again. Like, you don't want to go back and put yourself back in a situation in year 2 where you have a bunch of middle of the roster guys. So what does that mean? That means you have to be very judicious. It means you have to be very smart and calculated in how you're going to impact the top of the roster, not the middle, the top.
Right.
And that is done very carefully, because one false step and you miss on a guy that could impact the top of the roster because you felt like you had to get a guy. Like, you felt like, okay, this guy wants to commit, we got to take it. And now you've got a guy that impacts the middle of the roster, the same as, maybe he's a little better than the guy he's replacing, but he's not good enough to make that jump to where you want to go. Like, where you're competing for a tournament spot, and in the middle of February, late February, your name's in the field or on the bubble, and you can play your way in and you can play your way out. Like, they're at a very fine line right here.
Well, and I think you have to call it what it is too, in the sense that you're recruiting these guys out of the portal with the Big 12 in mind, not even just this season. But
it depends on which guy you're recruiting, right?
Sure.
If you're recruiting a one-year guy, that doesn't impact, like, that guy. Like,
I understand. I mean,
I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying there's levels to it of, like, the one-year guys that are out there, right?
Right.
They're not going to be impacted by the Big 12. The multiple-year guys, they are.
Correct.
And does the guy have a COVID year? Is it a one-year guy that possibly has 2?
Right.
Right? Like, there's so much that you have to, like, layer through to make sure you're going to get it right.
I believe that's what they call a delicate dance.
There we go.
You guys haven't been watching this. Oh, boy. Wow. You guys been watching this game?
No.
UConn NC State just put on an epic 2 overtime Elite 8 game, 91-87 in 2 overtimes.
Women's basketball.
Yeah.
I tell you what, there was, which game was that? It was the UConn. It might have been the UConn South Carolina game, like 3 years ago, maybe. It was,
I think I remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
Where it was like a game winner.
No, there was a Notre Dame run a couple years ago.
I know it was the
well.
Notre Dame one. It might have been them. I don't know, but I was at a bar watching it, and it was kind of one of those where, like, people aren't going to the bar with this in mind to watch the game, but
that's what they're watching.
People are slowly, like, glancing at the TV screen,
when I turned the camera off like 20 minutes ago, it was to watch the end of the second overtime because I didn't want to do the podcast like this. No, UConn didn't foul up 3 with 6 seconds left, and NC State hit a 3 to tie, like, at the buzzer. I thought they were not interested.
Never recognized the Godfather 3. Always foul up by 3. Come on.
If you thought they weren't interested in any one-year transfers, I don't know who you're getting your information from, but it wasn't me. I've never said that.
54. Oh,
I mean, I've just never said that. Like, if a one-year guy fits, you take the one-year guy and then you have an extra spot for next year. Because guess what? If you have an extra spot for next year, you can take a one-year transfer that you get to tell you're playing in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
Like, as many spots as you can have open for 2023, as long as things go like we think they're going to go, and you get to take that into the Big 12, you want as many spots as possible in 2023.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
That's my stance on it. Is people keep talking about that first year in the Big 12. You know, you got to be ready for that first year in the Big 12. I think next year is just as important, if not even more important, because the confidence level of your team is significantly higher when you're able to have a winning season put together and potentially make a run at the tournament, get into the tournament, maybe make some sort of a noise. You know, you look at all these teams that made this leap from, you know, not a great team to a tournament team, you know, a decent team to a tournament team. Now they have forward momentum. I think if you do this, you know, we're going to get this guy who might not give us too much next year, but that following year, that first year in the Big 12, he's really going to shine. No, I think you got to go all out for this upcoming year so that you are in the thick of things. You're in everyone's spotlight. ESPN's talking about you, you know, on a college game day saying, you know, Cincinnati's looking great in the AAC. It's a great momentum to carry into the Big 12 instead of here we are. We're going to be in the NIT next year, and then hopefully we make that next step with all these players who have multiple years. I think you go all out this year.
And you send a message to your 2023 recruits. If we get this, I think sometime over this summer, we're going to know one way or the other. You have to at some point in time. Are they going to be able to buy out a year early? You're going to know.
Yep.
2023, you're going to be able to tell high school recruits you're going to play in the Big 12.
Right.
And you're going to be able to tell transfers 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, the rest of your time is going to be spent in the Big 12. So I agree with you, Brent. Like you go and do whatever you can to make the team for 2022-23 as good as you can possibly make it. If that's with 1 year guys, it's with 1 year guys. If it's with 3 year guys, it's with 3 year guys. But you don't discriminate either way. You say, look, we're trying to be as good as we can be 2022-23, and we'll deal with what we have to deal with from there. Because the transfer portal allows you to do that. It allows you to say, we're going to get the best high school kids we can get, 2 or 3 or 4 of them, whatever, and then we're going to supplement that with the Big 12 guys.
And you know what? If you do get like 1 or 2 1-year guys that tear it up, guess what? You can go tell these guys in the portal who have maybe 1 or 2 years. You can tell them, hey, look at what Johnny did this past year. He was a catalyst to taking us to the NCAA tournament. You can come in and be the next Johnny. And I think this next year is just extremely, extremely important.
Should be a lot of fun.
It should be. But yeah, why didn't you get to finish that? So that girls' game, the game winner happened, and it was one of those where like everyone all of a sudden was watching, and we all blew up, and it was amazing. And so I hope, Chad, you're getting to watch that, and it's as beautiful.
I'm laughing at my text messages. I'll tell you guys after the show.
Is there any mutual interest in Terry Roberts?
They've made a call. We'll see.
You know, I want to ask you guys what you would classify when these Twitter accounts come out and they say blah and blah school has made contact with this player. Do you think it's something as small as a Twitter follow or a Instagram follow? Like what qualifies as schools reaching out?
I don't know, man. When teams talk about, or when you see those tweets where it lists off anything over like 10, I'm sorry, anything over like 10,
right?
I'm over it. Like, okay, you're a number in a hat at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting anything into it until I feel there's reason to put something into it.
What we know is the staff is working, right? They're working the transfer portal. They're taking a look. They're watching tape. They're seeing names that come up. They're making calls. They're seeing if they have a connection. They're seeing where it fits.
Right.
I just haven't got the sense yet, outside of the one name I've talked about on Bearcat Journal, that anything has gotten past the point of like, let's see where this stands. Where's this recruitment going? Is it done? Because that's like that. What people don't understand is that's the one thing you have to find out immediately when a kid is in the portal. Is this thing already done? Or is this thing already down to 2 or 3 schools where I'm fighting upstream in a battle I can't win?
Right. What kind of chance do you really have?
Yeah, like you have to, and then you have to do your research on the kid. What kind of kid is it? Is it a bad kid? Is it a kid that's not a winner? Like, no matter how talented they are, is it a kid that's not about what the culture you want your program to be about? Right. People have to trust. We have seen this in 2 monumental transformations in this town. Zach Taylor, Luke Fickle were steadfast. We're not going outside of what we want to be our culture just to bring guys in.
Right.
Let Wes do the same thing. Let them do their due diligence. Let them do their work. Let them make sure that the guys that they're bringing in are about what they want to be about. There's 5 or 6 guys that have mentioned UC.
Right.
That the more you dig, it's like, I don't know culturally if this is a guy that you want to bring into the locker room.
Right. Well, and then you think in mind, it's like, okay, did X and X coach reach out to his AAU coach or his high school coach or his his college coach, and was that the extent of this school?
And think about how small the AAU world is. There's not a lot like.
Right.
You know, there's 40 Nike teams. There's 40 or so Adidas. There's 40 or so Under Armour. You're talking 120 teams. There's a pretty good chance somebody on your staff knows somebody at one of those AAU programs.
Right.
So they reached out and said, you know, what's the scoop on this kid? And then all of a sudden the kid's like, oh, Cincinnati's in on me.
And honestly, what does that do for the kid too? It raises the awareness that like, okay, people are after him. If we want this guy, maybe we got to push a little bit harder, you know? And so
and what happens if I'm the one that comes out and says Cincinnati's on this kid? Then everybody knows Cincinnati's on the kid.
Right.
Because I don't put things out there just willy-nilly.
Right.
If I say it, I say it.
Yeah. So
say it with your chest.
And I mean,
always.
And if you're being honest,
that kind of hurt a little.
You did hit it.
Went a little hard in the paint on that one.
To be honest, though, if you look back at the transfer portal all the way up until this past weekend through today, a lot more
today it blew up.
A lot more juice has been pumped in recently. So
today it was popping.
Yeah, today it was.
It was bussin', is my
bussin', man.
As my 11-year-old would say.
With some of that bussin'.
Aaron's got an 11-year-old now. He knows.
He's bussin' down there, boy.
I get
you
it.
Down there, boy. You bussin' there. All right, but here, I guess, I mean, you know, we could talk about it until we're blue in the face.
That's mailbag, man. We were talking about doing a short show.
No, I know.
We're talking about 2.5 hours right now.
Let's mailbag, but Aaron, anything in closing for basketball, real quick, other than let's do that quick mention of Daniel Skilling's high school state championship. Sports Center retweeted it, they posted it on Instagram about
31-13.
Man,
31-13. That's impressive. 31 points,
Champion.
13 boards. Let's
Champion.
go. Let's go.
And what they do, they said I saw some tweet. It was going around in some groups I'm in about how it was the first time a player scored 28 or more in however many years in the in the Pennsylvania State Championship game. It's like okay, well, why are you picking 28 or more? Why when was the last time someone scored 31 or more? go back even further in the archives. But
It's
no,
just a strange number to
awesome.
just land on.
Right, very weird. But no, I'm really excited to see what Daniel Skillings brings, and especially because you can see in his highlight package from that game, like he was attacking, he was not holding back. He was catching that rock and he was shooting it with confidence. And I mean that's something that probably one player on the team this past year definitely had was when he got his hands. I guess two. When you got your hands on the ball, you were ready to shoot that right away.
I'm
And
really
Daniel
excited to see more
seems like he got-
dunks.
Yeah, dunks too, man.
Well,
Definitely.
no, the thing for me is his ability to finish at the rim.
Yeah, length, man.
This team
Length.
was awful at
Couldn't make layups.
right. Dan
Well-
Skillings is a layup maker, or at least he has been.
If
It's-
he's not putting it down with two hands.
Ooh.
When he shoots layups, the layups go in between the little circle. That's something that
you
this
can
team
fit
has
two
severely
basketballs
lacked.
in a circle in that circle.
Yes, I do know that.
Crazy.
I'm aware of that.
Crazy. All right.
Good for Dan.
let's-
I think he's going to be an impact guy.
Yeah, and the thing about him as well is that you guys kind of mentioned this on one of the nightcaps. Is like, yeah, it's like his third season in organized basketball, whatnot. And I mean, I'm not sure the level of competition's up there, but when you put like real, true, just guys that are going to hone in on what they want to bring out in him most skill wise, with that length already, I mean, geez, I can't wait to see what his potential is. It's going to be exciting and scary at the same time. Mailbag it up. But first, do you have another one to crack? Or are you already on?
Oh, I didn't bring another one. I'm still finishing this one.
Oh, well, cheers. Cheers.
The timestamps are brought to you by Urban Artifacts, Cincinnati's home for tart beer and seltzer made exclusively with real fruit. Swing by Urban Artifacts Northside Tap Room, mention Bearcat Journal, get 2% off a flight of 4 tasters. Urban Artifacts Bar Splash. Backsplash is made from repurposed wood, flooring from the old gymnasium where the brew house now operates.
www.artifactbeer.com for those of you who were looking for that website earlier.
Support them. They support us. You support them. That's how this works. And then I can send that money to Aaron and Brent so they can eat. It's a good system. It's a good system.
For me, it's just drink. So
Oh, well, that's fine.
keep them coming.
No, that's your one. Like that's your one deal. Like
I know.
you're not getting replenished supplies every month unless Scotty wants to. But I don't think Scotty wants to send you to Urban Artifact every month.
Unless he wants me to start to go to some big reds around the area.
I was gonna say, like, that's why I'm stretching this out until I hear otherwise. But
Local watering holes around the area. I
see
know
what we
some
can do.
people.
Mailbag,
All right,
let's go.
Mailbag. All right. First and foremost, we're starting in the football mailbag as always. What does the timeline for a 10th
Today. It looks like today. Because I just named the guy.
We did talk about that earlier. Still just want to put it up there. We did.
No,
talk
I know.
about it.
I'm answering the question. The name,
So-
the timeline looks like today.
So if you're listening on the podcast, it was what does the timeline for a 10th assistant coach look like? Are there any names to watch for a $/snipers coach today?
Today.
And you know what that is, Aaron? Go back to the question. Do you know what that is? That's no cap.
No cap.
Cap 32 asked the question. Cap 32 asked the question.
Oh boy.
This may have been covered before, but does UC have an NIL collective like Louisville or Tennessee? I believe Urban Meyer's part of the NIL collective up in Ohio State now, that can approach athletes / recruits as a cohesive group.
They have a group that is working, a company that is working with NIL through UC. They do not have what Tennessee has, which is a bunch of boosters that have funded pooled all their money together to pay a quarterback that
$8
has
million.
never played a snap $8 million. They don't have that. No.
Woof.
Is that confirmed? $8 million.
Yeah.
All right. When do you think we will start to see some dominoes falling on the recruiting front for us in football?
Soon. It's spring. That's when you start. I mean, here's the thing it's different from where we've been before. Typically right now, like they had no commits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were looking for like who's going to be the guy that pops, who's going to start the 2023 class, or they had like one guy that committed like in the winter, and it was like, all right, how are we going to get that 2023 class started? Well, they've got 5, and they're the number 15 class in the country, and their average rating is 87.26.
Yep.
So they're kind of already way ahead of the curve on where they've been in the past. I do think that, as is typical at the end of the spring, guys start making decisions. They go out on spring break. They take these tours. They go to campuses. They start deciding, where their home is going to be, and you see some commitments. I think we'll see some of that here in the spring as the spring ends or comes to a close. Spring football comes to a close. And then you'll see another section in the summer with camps.
A wave, if you will.
A wave when camps start. But you also have to be careful now because you've already got 5.
And you're growing in recognition, growing in accessibility, and people wanting to come here. So,
right.
Yeah. Got to be careful because Aaron, you covered football recruiting. I covered football recruiting as well. It's the summer always seems to be a hot time, and you get a big chunk of commitments during that June and July months. It seemed like back when I was covering it, it was kind of the July 4th was a hot date. I think there were 3 to 5 players that committed on that July 4th week. Where I don't know, like you said, Chad, you've already got a head start. How quickly do you want to try and fill it up, or are you going to slow roll it? I think they have time.
Just seems like you have a drought, if you will, for a bit, and then
that's because this was always a drought. It didn't start until I'm just explaining it, Aaron. It didn't start until now, typically. So everybody thinks that there's a drought because they got these commits in the winter that they never get, right? So now that, like, from that to now is seen as a drought, when that was never a drought. It was just the recruiting process that you started landing commits at the end of spring practice, and then you got more commits as you go through summer camps in June, and then now they have official visits in June and early July, and like that's when the momentum picked up. But what I'm saying is you got to be careful because all of a sudden you might have way too many commits by the time you're at July, if you're not careful, where you've got like 17 guys that want to jump in the boat, and now you have no flexibility through the rest of your recruiting class because you've already got 5 now. Like they're in a different spot. No, I'm just saying they're in a different spot than they've ever been before.
Yeah, all I meant though was just all of a sudden when one kid starts to commit, when I was writing, like I had sometimes 3 kids, 4 kids in a week. I got to write about.
No, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Shit is crazy.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. You have to be careful now because you've already got 5. It used to be right now you had 1 or 0, right?
Yeah.
And then when the wave comes that you're talking about, where all of a sudden there's 4, 5, 6 kids ready to commit. Well, guess what? If 6 kids commit, now you got 11. And you have to add transfers. If you want to add transfers, they count against the 25 now. So if you have 11 high school kids, now that's half your class that's
also
done at the end of spring practice.
It's also assuming no one's leaving, so
No one, well, no, that doesn't matter at all. You get 25 commits. You get between high school and transfers, you get 25 commits. Doesn't matter who leaves or who stays.
regardless of transfers out.
I mean, the 85 is, but that's always going to work itself out.
Right.
Like the number 85 is, there's always going to be guys at the bottom of the roster that are not happy that are going to go somewhere else to always get you to that 85. There's never been a team.
Didn't one enter the portal today? I don't know if it was official.
Yeah, Jalen Monroe
tweeted
entered
Jalen
the portal
Monroe
today. And I, to be honest, and I know this is terrible of me, like people will probably crush me for this at some point in time. I had kind of forgotten about Jalen Monroe. I called somebody today and I was like, was he even at spring practice the entire 7 practices? Nope. He wasn't there. Like, that's obviously been in the works for a little while. He was not in any of the spring practices. So, yeah, that's my bad on not catching that, because I try to do my best to catch, like, okay, here's 18, 27, 6, 5, 2, 9, 12. Why? Like, that's how I caught Saturday. Taj Ward wasn't feeling well, so he stayed home that day. And I was like, I don't see Taj Ward. They're like, yeah, he's sick. I miss Jalen Monroe. That's maybe an indictment on Jalen Monroe. Is what it is.
All right. Mick just said why. That was in the mailbag. Just not in response to anything or anyone. Just why.
Because.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that's you don't have kids, so you don't know. The answer to why is because.
Always.
I don't know is not the answer. If you say I don't know, Brent,
Okay.
I'm conditioning you for when you have kids. Okay,
I'm ready.
I'm teaching a lesson. When they say why, and if you say I don't know, that leads to another question
Every time.
And the last thing you want is another question. So the answer is always like end of the road.
I said so.
Because I said so. Like, I said so.
Because
why? Because
God
because
said
I
so.
said so. Right. Because I'm not answering another one of your stupid ass questions.
Because
You'll learn. Never followed a spring football game. What is the format and how is it run? That should be a good answer.
That varies every year. There's usually a really weird scoring system that relates to one of the last plays of the scrimmage determining the outcome of the scrimmage.
You say usually like there's an exception. That's always the rule.
Right. Like
and then
it's all
Will
like
Pauling catches one over the middle.
right, and then the offense wins.
The offense to win.
Right.
Mom said to tell you to get the dog, like,
That one can get in. I don't know.
All right. When we host these large recruiting weekends during spring practices, how are we promoting the indoor practice facility? Do they have any renderings to show visitors or info on the status that isn't out in the public yet?
No, we don't have renderings yet. Trust me, when they have renderings, you will see them, right? Like that is the point of those renderings cost millions of dollars.
They'll show those off to everybody.
Immediately when those renderings are done, you will see them. They tell everybody we are building an indoor practice facility. It is coming. It will be here while you are here. And once there are renderings, they will be part of every presentation. Right now, they're not done yet, or they're working on getting them done. And that's how that'll go.
While we're on the topic, though, I did see on the Bearcat Sports homepage, they did launch a $100 million incentive to try and raise funding. So
sure,
feel free to donate to UCATS for all of that.
Absolutely. If you want to see the renderings, donate money.
Any update on Justin Harris?
No different than what we've talked about. He's practicing. He has been running mostly with the twos as an outside corner. He's been in red because he broke his neck, and you're not gonna overly push him in spring practice. I think he's had a solid spring so far with what he's been allowed to do. And I will also say that was the most violent collision I think I've ever seen on a football field. So the fact that he is back and practicing is amazing, because him and Taj Ward, they had their sights set on this, and both of them missed by about 6 inches at full speed and collided. And I was maybe 12, 13 yards from the collision. And I was worried the ambulance was going to have to be brought out for both of them in a large spatula, because it was, you guys saw it in the press box.
Yeah, we saw it.
I saw it from field level. Like, you guys saw it in the press box, and both went, right?
It was nasty.
He's back. He's doing well.
Very good.
Love me some Justin Harris. Great kid.
Have you asked if Sauce is going to the draft, like in attendance? And if so, would Fickle be going with him?
Last night, it's still being discussed. I would assume
Sauce better be there.
I would assume he's going to be in the green room. Like, that's
the way they're pumping him up. There's no way.
I would assume he's going to be in the green room. But last I heard, a decision had not been made. Don't know about Fick. Like, Fick's going to have a lot of. There's going to be a lot of guys that want Fick like hanging out with them at their draft parties. So I don't know specifically on that yet. We got what, 4 weeks before the
Des
draft.
might even get an invite too, depending on if what
depending on how things trend.
Start hearing, yeah,
over the next couple of weeks.
Free advertising.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the basketball portion of the mailbag. What are your thoughts on landing Alex Chiku? I guess is how you would say that name, Chiku.
Pretty good.
Or Cam Hay? Who would be most important for?
I think it's Hayes.
I think it is Hayes. I'm reading
Hayes,
the
yeah.
question as it was written. Who would be most important for next year's team?
I don't have any thoughts because I don't think they are primary guys that UC's recruiting. So we try to keep it in line here. Like,
Keep it tight.
if they are names that I think UC is heavily involved with, then we'll talk about them. If they're not, I'm not going to clickbait you guys into, follow this guy, follow that guy. What about this guy? What about that guy? Like, no, we're going to talk about the people that UC really has a legit shot at landing. Those two are not on my list at this point.
All right. Without any real smoke on the recruiting front, if you were to craft a realistic and successful offseason, how would you round out the roster? Any specific names you would like the staff to pursue?
Guys, we're not going to do this every week. We're just not. Like, follow when I get confident, relevant information, I'm going to post it. There's no real smoke on the recruiting front from your perspective. From my perspective, it's a different perspective. When there are specific names, I will provide them to you. You know who provided you all of the names last offseason? All of them. Me. So when there are specific names, we will talk about them on Bearcat Journal. I promise.
Not to
I
toot his
promise.
own horn or anything, but
promise.
toot, toot.
Odie. Abdul.
It's
Hayden.
rare I get to give you a hard time.
But
I'm just
go back
saying.
a year ago.
That was not me calling you out for any misinformation. It was simply if
If there's a guy to pay attention to, we're going to talk about it first here. We're not there. Like the one name I've given you is a name that I think UC is doing everything they can to land. Do I know for sure they're going to land him? Absolutely not. But they're doing everything they can to land him.
I like this.
Yes.
All right. Chad, do you think there's a shortage of real talent in the portal this year? It seems to be lacking compared to previous years. I have a hard time seeing 3 high-quality transfers coming in this year that will make a huge difference to this roster.
I think there are at least 3 people in the portal this year that could be high guys that make an impact. I think of the 1,000 names, there's probably going to be 3 that can make a difference.
Well,
So
it's still hard to even really know what the hell's going on in the portal as people are still playing.
and people are just now entering the portal. Today was crazy.
I mean, I think I just said it just the past weekend.
Yeah. There was somebody that was like, I think the portal's pretty. I was discussing with today. I think the portal's pretty settled on how many players, like the high level players that are going to be in. We talked about this last week. Okay. UC put 3 players in the portal this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those were all guys. We all thought the tough conversations, right? Going to have some tough conversations. Every school in the country, especially the high, like when we're talking about the high major level, all those schools had those tough conversations. Are you really sure you want somebody that a high major program just had that tough conversation with? You're not good enough to play here. You gotta jump 2 feet in, 10 toes down on the guys that everybody else in the country is like, we don't think you're going to work here. We think we're going to have to find somebody else that's better than you to fill your spot. Relax, guys, relax. This is a 4 to 5 week process, right? Mm-hmm. We're in week 2. There's 3 or 4 weeks to go before this first wave of the portal plays out.
Right.
Just let it play out. Let it play out. And then if we get to May 1st and Cincinnati hasn't done shit, freak the fuck out. Freak out. I'm serious. I'm serious. The portal closes May 1st. If you haven't entered the portal at May 1st, you don't get the free year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we get to May 1st and Cincinnati hasn't added anybody and they got 3 spots open and it looks like the roster is going to be very similar to what was here last year, just with the addition of Skillings and Reed and Tolentino, freak out. Lose your shit on the board.
Out.
Go crazy.
Freak out.
But it's March 28th. Let them figure out over the next 4+ weeks. And let's see if they're good as we think they are on the recruiting front. Let's see. It's time for them. They've got this window. They don't owe us anything. We don't owe anything. They don't owe anything to us on how they're going to get it done, right? The answer is get it the fuck done.
Yep.
And when we get to March 1st, we'll take a look at the roster and we'll go, wow, they got better. Or we'll go, uh-oh, this looks a lot like the same team we had last year.
All right. Do you expect any staff members to leave for any reason this offseason?
At this point, no. I've talked around and I've talked to some of the guys on staff. You going to be here? Yeah, going to be here. So as it stands, no, I think the staff will, at least by and large, be very similar next year to what it is this year.
All right. What does a successful year 2 for West look like? Is there a certain number of wins needed, a postseason trip to the NIT or NCAA tournament required, or 2023 recruiting success? How do we define success from now until the end of next season?
I don't live life like you guys. Like these are my expectations. I demand they do this. But what I will say is this team should be, when you get into the middle of February, in play for an NCAA tournament spot. Right? I think that's fair. Does that sound fair?
Moving into the Big 12, I'd have concern if they weren't contending.
Right.
In the
That's
Americas.
not to say they're a lock or they're
Right.
going to be a protected seed, but like when the bracket matrix starts really being a thing in February, like the start of February, right? I want to see Cincinnati like in the mix on some of those lists. Like I want to see some of the top bracketologists having Cincinnati in the fold.
At the very least, you'd hope to be like first 4 in, first 4 out, something along that line, bubble team.
Right. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
like you want people to be talking about Cincinnati as a potential tournament team as you get into like the middle of February.
So if they're a lock, we've overachieved.
Yes. And if they're not on those lists, then they didn't have a great offseason. And maybe they took too many players early in the process that, didn't make them great, but made them slightly better.
All right. Chad, I believe you had mentioned that regarding the transfer portal, the 3 positions in need are at point guard, power forward, and center. Because
I did not mention this, by the way.
Because 4 or 3, depending on how you view Hensley, of the 7 returning players are at the power forward / center positions. How realistic do you think it is that we land starting caliber players at those positions? And can you almost ask the same question about point guard, as although only 2 returning players, both of them were starters?
Brian, less words first. There's this, like, somewhere people think I mentioned that they need a power forward. That's not what I ever said. I felt they needed another wing that kind of slots in between where Skillings and Reed are, which would kind of be the 3, right? Because I don't think they have, like, if Newman is your 3, there's nothing behind it, right?
Move
At the
Skillings
4,
yeah.
Jeremiah, Hensley, who I think is more of a 4 than a 3, Josh Reed, Odie, Vic, those guys, those 5, you got 5 guys that can play the 4.
Right.
Whether you want to go big or small. Some of those guys can move to the 5, some of those guys can move to the 3.
Yeah.
But the 4 has never been a position I said they need to, like, have a heavy emphasis on.
I mean, the 4 doesn't really even exist anymore, honestly. It's just...
It does.
Stretch 4.
It's evolved, right?
Right, it's evolved. It's not a
positionless basketball. And
you're not looking for Charles Barkley or,
Right.
Gary Clark. Like, I mean... Yes,
the crazy thing is, if Gary had developed early, he would have been the ideal stretch 4 in college.
Right. But I'm talking about what he was.
Yeah, he
college.
didn't develop in time to be that in college.
His senior year, he was that. But
he made some shots. Yeah, from 3, he made some shots. I don't think power forward is like I would not take a power forward.
I think you pretty much have it locked down between guys drifting between the 5 and the 4.
Mm-hmm. Unless the power forward is a stud.
Sure. Like if you get a game changer, then you rotate everybody else, and you adjust.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Right. But as it is, I'm not dialing in on we have to have a 4. I'm dialing in on we need a point guard, we need a center,
and a young wing.
And a wing. If he's young, he's young. If he's not, he's not. We'll get the young one next year. We have to get the young one next year. But point guard, wing, center. I don't know where. I've seen this a couple times that I insisted at like a power forward. No, that's you guys. You guys think they need a power forward. Love you, Brian. No, I get where you're coming from because I've seen it a couple times where people are like, Chad said 1-4-5. No, that's not what I said.
I think
wing 5.
they're just maybe with potentially with
People
some
don't understand what I'm saying in
what
terms
wing
of,
means,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree with that, Aaron. You're right. You're right.
What does the summer look like for the new players? Assuming 3 portal transfers in Skillings and Reed, when do they start basketball-related UC activities, and what does that entail? You forgot Sage.
Depends on when they graduate high school. If they're a grad transfer, when they graduate college. If they're a regular transfer, when can they get here? Generally, new players arrive in June. Grad transfers have been a little bit fluid because it's a matter of when did you graduate from the university that you're at? Did you graduate in May? Did you have to take some summer classes?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to take summer class session 1? Did you have to take summer class session 1 and 2? Like, that's a lot of the stuff that goes into, are we going after this grad transfer, right? Like,
right.
If we can't get him here until August, how much are we going to be able to count on him helping us in November? We want a grad transfer that's going to be able to be here, early. So there's no specific, like, hard and fast deadline. Generally, freshmen, early June is when they arrive on campus. Transfers, that can be a little bit earlier because they get done with their current school, and then they can, as long as you can, basically for a transfer, the deadline is, or the end goal is enrolling and starting in a class, right? And some of that stuff happens on a school on semesters. At the end of May, or middle of May, you can start to enroll for summer classes. Sometimes it's in June, sometimes it's in July. Like, it's complicated as opposed to when did they get released from the school that they're transferring from.
All right. That closes the basketball portion of the mailbag. Last part of the mailbag is the banks. No, nobody's diving into the baseball mailbag. If we have another week without anything there, I'm just going to stop posting it. So.
Rough weekend for the week for the Bearcats.
It was. They dropped all 3 to Xavier starting Friday. Yep, 7-8, 7-8, and 5-6.
Wow.
One run games, all 3 of them. They have one last shot at Xavier at home on Wednesday at 6. Currently standing at 9-13. That hurt. They could have been over 500 if they had gotten.
They got the start they wanted, where they didn't start like 0-6, right?
Right.
Going down south and playing a bunch of like top 15 teams, and then but when you schedule like that, you better make sure you come back up north and win games. And it's been tough. That 6-game road trip to South Carolina, and then these 3 against Xavier. Got to be better.
Still looking forward.
Googs will tell you that. Got to be better.
Still looking forward to that Big 12 rule of no starting, no games for games that start below 32 degrees at first pitch. So
I feel you.
Quick question. Since and Skins never has a quick question. Let's be all the way honest.
This is quick. This is just for Brent.
Yep. Since I'm on vacation and the better half is giving me the evil eye. Brent, how hard is it playing the straight man to Chad and Aaron?
A lot more difficult than I lead all the listeners and followers to believe. That's about all I got to say about it.
I'm fairly certain you get off these podcasts about half the time just irritated that you have to deal with not one, but both of us.
I'm never irritated, to be honest.
The eternal optimist. I love it. Love it.
We have fun. That's the point, right? We have fun.
Yeah.
There's nobody. And the funny part is, I will say with certainty, because we run the 2 top podcasts in the UC space. This podcast gets more traffic than any podcast in the UC space.
We're number 1.
Yeah.
One of us.
Bengals question this week. Repeat to get to the Super Bowl again will be tough. Would you trade draft picks to move up to get Sauce, thinking that pick will help the goal, or stand pat and choose best player available at 31? Well, you do not want to mortgage your future. As good as Sauce is, I will not be shocked at all if they take a cornerback at 31, if it's the best player available. I think that, honestly, they're going to end up going defense unless a Zion Johnson or a Linderbaum falls all the way to 31. But
here's the thing. You have to mortgage a lot to go up high enough to get to where you think Sauce is going to be drafted.
Yes.
A lot. Like,
he could.
That's not just as simple as like, okay, we're going to give you 31 and our number 1 next year. Because guess what?
That's not enough.
Cincinnati's number
10.
1 next year doesn't have a ton of value. Right?
Not if we're going where we think we're going. No.
Right. So, you can't. I wish you could. I'd love to see Sauce as a Bengal for the next 10 years.
But they're also, the Bengals draft spot is the perfect place where teams like to go in last second and take that end of the first round spot. So
especially a quarterback.
Sure. What's that have to do with drafting Sauce in the top 5?
I'm saying you don't want to trade that because you can get
probably a lot better. I got you.
Yeah.
Get value and trade down. Right.
Yeah. You're right. No, you absolutely right. Like you want to hang on to that spot.
Right.
For sure.
The very last thing you want to do in the position they're in is reach for anything.
Right.
So it wouldn't be trading up again, unless you could potentially get a Linderbaum in like the 25 range, but you're not.
You're just pretty much swapping picks in a 6th round or something.
Right.
I don't see them moving up though. I think if anything, they'll move down. But like I said, just don't reach. Right. The last question in the mailbag. I'm planning a trip to Iceland with the lady. I'm very excited to go. But currently, said trip will be happening during the same week as UC versus Arkansas football game. How do I convince her that watching football on that Saturday is a good use of our limited vacation time? I will say I brought this question up to my lady, and she said the only way that you're getting away with that is if you just tell her that it's simply too cold in Iceland and you just want to stay in and cuddle. And she wants that attention.
Here's the problem. Iceland's not cold.
I know Greenland's cold. Iceland is
Iceland is green.
Me too, Mighty Ducks.
Greenland is ice. So what you have to do is find, I don't know what the equivalent is in Iceland, but you have to find somewhere that the game is going to be on TV.
A lot harder than you can imagine.
I think you just turn off all social media notifications, stay off of social media entirely, tape the game, and
tape the game to what?
I'm saying tape it. Tape the game.
To what?
I don't know, man. Do people still tape things?
It'll be on ESPN Plus later.
TiVo? I don't know, man. Like
no. So what you do is this. I had to do this in Ireland. You just go along your merry way. Make sure your phone is fully charged. Bring a backup one of those battery pack things. You just carry on. Watch it. Commercial breaks are about 3 to 5 minutes.
You were at a wedding. You were at a wedding with like 30 people you could blend in, right? He's with his wife.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to blend in. See, this is we continue to have this disconnect with Brent. Like no wife and kids. Like you just get to like look. We're jealous. We would love to willy-nilly and just be like, shit. Sorry, I didn't know what you meant. I was over here watching my phone. That's not how wives work.
Zach, I don't think you're gonna be watching the game if I'm being honest.
You have to find a place and I think a lot of it depends on like what level of production, what level of TV do you see Arkansas, right? If it's on like ESPN2, you could probably find a restaurant in Iceland with ESPN2.
They would have to stream it for you because that, believe me, we were the Notre Dame game when they were playing Florida State. No bar hat.
Yeah, but that's NBC. Nobody in Ireland has NBC. Everybody's got ESPN, right?
I think that game against Florida State was on ESPN.
Yeah,
I want to put this in perspective. Right now, it is currently 10:33 here, Eastern Standard Time. It is currently 2:33 a.m. in Iceland. So I don't know what time that game is slated for.
Early. I think it's like a
1 o'clock game or something.
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock,
or noon
game,
or whatever.
Like
yeah. I just wanted to put that out there. If it was a night game, good luck.
You hang out in the small things with the monkeys that swim around.
All right, Zach, I'm going to be honest here. Get her drunk. Whatever the game is, 5 hours before kickoff, get her drunk. That might be brunch. That might be breakfast, mimosas, right? Like, whatever the case may be, load her up 5 minutes before the game or 5 hours before the game. By the time the game's ready to kick off, you play the sympathetic husband. I love you, honey. I just, I want what's right. Just take a nap. Just take a nap. When you wake up, we'll go get dinner. Everything's cool. It's all good. Just take a nap. And then you watch the game. And then she wakes up. And then you go get dinner. And you go about your night.
I'm telling you right now, there's no shot poor Zach is going to get to watch this game.
I think that's the best path. You guys get like it's like tailgating, right? You guys tailgated 5 hours before the game. and you get a shot. Like, and you're doing shots of water, and she's doing shots of tequila. And then 30 minutes before kickoff, she's ready to take a nap. And then she takes a nap. You sit in the room. You watch the game. When she wakes up, you're ready to go to dinner. You're good.
No shot this is happening for him. That's the mailbag.
You don't think that's good advice?
I didn't say it wasn't good advice. I'm just saying I don't think there's a snowball's chance in Greenland. How about that?
Greenland's cold. Iceland's green. So the people that named those places fucked up.
Iceland.
I've heard Iceland.
Tasty hot dogs.
I've heard Iceland is amazing. I've talked to people that have been to Iceland, and they said Iceland is amazing.
It is.
Oh, what wedding did you go to in Iceland, Brent?
It's not a wedding.
Sure it wasn't. This was a great fucking podcast.
Unreal.
We were worried if do we have 90 minutes of content tonight?
Yeah.
We're at 2.5 hours.
Well, that must mean it's time for us to close on out. But one last thing. Aaron, cheers.
Yep. Just finished mine.
Chad, final timestamp, Aaron. Take it away. Well,
spring means two things: basketball and warmer weather. Enjoy both with some fruit tarts from Urban Artifact, Cincinnati's home for drinks made exclusively with real fruit. Swing by Urban Artifact's Northside Tap Room. Mention Bearcat Journal. Get $2 off a flight of 4 tasters.
Boom. That about do it, guys.
And Danco, as always.
That about do it. So big thank you to Urban Artifacts. Huge thank you to Danco Transmission, of course. This was a good one, guys. Hopefully a week filled with fun, fantastic Bearcat fantasies, and everything else that comes with it. Football practice throughout the week. Baseball's still going to be popping. And as always, that portal is a bumping. So stay tuned. Stay locked in. Bearcat Journal has it all for you. Yet again.
Thanks to everybody tuning in. We had a great crowd tonight. The crowd tonight was awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks a bunch for everything, guys. And as always, For my broadcast buddies, good pals, good friends, Aaron Smith and Chad Brendel, I am Brent Young. This was the BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!